know Cathy Dana. And she is a poet laureate emerita of Alameda. She is the only poet laureate I know who actually has a photograph of herself wearing a laurel wreath. And I commend you on that. I kept trying to get other poets laureate to do that. Nobody has taken me up on it, but you set a good example. Thank you. She is when I read your bio, Cathy, as you know, I was just astonished by the years of dedication to poetry that you show. And she founded and runs a high school poet community learning center, a high school poet laureate program, and the Mighty Pens Poetry Club, which has published 10 anthologies of student poems. She taught creative writing at the Charter High School and has been president of the Alameda Island Poets. And many of you, of course, know that there are 2 offerings per month that Cathy is involved with. There's the first Wednesday, and we feel very fortunate to have her the day before she's hosting that event. And then there's the workshop that comes on the third Wednesday. So these are all very exciting kinds of things. Cathy has also spent many years in the healing arts, massage, hypnotherapy, trauma resolution, and that monthly open mic that she founded and hosts just celebrated its 21st anniversary. So as I read all of these things, I wasn't surprised to read your saying that you credit your love of writing to your mother, who read to you tirelessly, and to your 2 siblings, and to your 3rd grade teacher, whose 95th birthday celebration you recently attended. That bond between a teacher and a student is something that you've carried into your adult life with students that you have taught. And can you say something about what Ellen Law did or said or was to you that inspired you to write?
Oh, thank you. That's a great question. And I was going to dedicate this reading to her because tomorrow she would be 102.
Oh my
She
God.
she made it to 99, and I FaceTimed her on her 99th birthday. um, I had her for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, and she loved everything creative, but especially writing. And so there were 4 of us, Judy, Dorothy, Cindy, and I, who became sort of the school poets. And she would read aloud our works and have us read them aloud, and everybody in the class. And she was the one that just really got me going.
Okay, very good. And what has kept you going with writing?
Actually, I had a long pause from writing
Okay.
in high school, and it was actually Mary Rudge that got me back into writing. I had written little driplets in between, but it really wasn't until, and where's Ken? Ken and Mary were doing a contest about um, poems about Alameda, and I said, "Oh, I have some poems about Alameda," and so I got in with them and have been writing ever since. So thank you, Ken and Mary.
Okay, very good. I think we'll ease our way now into your presentation for this evening, because I think that's what we really have wanted to hear. And thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you, Mary Susan. I just have to thank you for you publishing Going the Distance, which I think it has buoyed so many spirits. I just think, including mine, and given poets a voice during the pandemic times, including mine, and many a poem on it. you all don't know, but I'll send my little remarks to Mary Susan, because so many poems just really touch me, or they make me smile, or they give me this new aha thing, and or new hope. And I just have to read your line. The opening line of your poem this time is, "In the parched high noons of our lives." And I was like knocked out. I just love that line. So thank you for doing that. And I also thank you
really has
for,
been a pleasure.
oh, good. I also thank you for choosing the theme, Wounded Dreams, as somebody who's been in the healing arts as well as the creative arts. It's like a perfect topic for me. And, you know, we all have our wounded dreams, and some of them are personal and some are the collective. Right now, I think we're all in some collective dreams that are just taking a beating. So I'm gonna read the lines out of the poem "Wounded Dreams," that out of which this theme comes. That I'm hoping to kind of come in on their tale here. The lines are: "We are all involved. Indifference would simply be evidence of the will to die, or trying to straddle some fence that no one has ever seen. Together we can and must rehabilitate our wounded dreams to reclaim and nourish the song of the quality of our vibrant being." So I'm gonna orient my poems around that. So the first one, this was my first prize-winning poem back in CFCP, California Federation of Chaparral Poets, and it's called "When My Soul Begins to Sing." When my soul begins to sing, I will embrace my dark side, look directly into its eyes, inhale its earthy fragrance, flare my nostrils wide with fire, and dance on rooftops, singing out my anger and sorrow into strong winds and soft breezes. Watch as my tears pour out to become healing rains. Gather my fears into a circle, and all hold hands and breathe together in a rhythmic way until some grow roots and leaves and flowers. Some compost into eager soil. Some take wing and splash the sky with a spirited grace that looks down from above and nods, just nods, and breathes. And the breath goes everywhere and is invisible and is indistinguishable from the Great Spirit and from the song of my soul.
Ooh.
Thank you.
Universal perspective. Wow.
Thank you. And now I'm going to read from my first and hopefully not last book, My Dad Believed in Love, which was published by Sugartown Press and Janie Dresser. So this is all about my dad. And this is from his boyhood, about his boyhood. And I think sometimes you don't realize that you have a dream until it's broken and wounded, and you have to figure out what to do about that. This is called A Vow. You were only 12, small for your age, when it happened, that fateful 1935 bike ride in Kings Point. Riding with a friend, you turned for a moment, looked back, and saw trouble. Your friend, the gentle one with Down syndrome, harassed by 6 strangers, 6 bullies in foreign territory. Your defenseless friend in danger. You hesitated, gripped by fear, paralyzed by indecision, knowing the right thing to do, yet unable to do it. Watching helpless as your best friend rode up, dispersed the bullies, protected your friend, rescued the day. not recognizing that his courage, his actions, pitched you into a black hole of dishonor and disgrace. Not by your own volition, but by life's demand, you had come face to face with fear and then shame. And at the moment of truth, somehow you looked unflinchingly into the depths of your own soul, cringing when you saw cowardice. In despair, witness to your own weakness, falling desperately short of your ideals. Through that wrenching willingness to look inside, you came out the other side changed, newborn. Out of your very essence, a vision crystallized, a vow to never abandon a defenseless one, never back down from a fight, no matter what the odds or cost. You became champion of the defenseless. Though you were smaller than most, you gained a reputation in high school. Bullying halted abruptly if you were around. Finishing school, you became a medic in World War II, tending the wounded. After the war, you became a school psychologist, the children's advocate. After a massive heart attack ended your independence, your carefree, happy bachelor days, you became a resident at the Elders Inn. They tell me you defended the shy, the quiet folk, those 2.5 years. Into your 80s, you defended the defenseless, true to your vow to the very end. Thank you. The next poem is called The Home Front, still from this book about my dad. And sometimes a whole country has a dream. In this case, the dream of making the world safe for democracy. Everyone scrimped and saved for the war effort, Dad told me. Families saved leftover grease and fat, scrap metals, rolled up used tinfoil into a ball. He was right. War slogans exhorted folks. Save waste fats for explosives. Food is a weapon, don't waste it. After all, we were in World War II to preserve the American way of life. It's hard to believe now, Dad said, that so many things were hard to come by. He was right. Folks needed special ration stamps to buy fabric, shoes, leather, metal, oil products, rubber. Food was in short supply. Coffee, sugar, butter, meat. The government proclaimed National Meatless Days, urged people to plant victory gardens. The gas shortage led to a 35-mile-per-hour speed limit, the victory speed. People were cajoled to produce and conserve, share and play fair. Friends and family members of soldiers sent letters, photos, home-baked cookies, and care packages. They hoped and prayed would reach their son, their husband, their lover, their uncle, their nephew, their brother, their father. One time I got a package from my father, Dad told me. It had taken him months to collect a ragtag box of mismatched cigarettes. He abstained from smoking to send them to his son at the European front. How could he know that in the army we had cigarettes coming out our ears? I was trained to battle the enemy, to be tough for combat. When I opened that box, so carefully put together, this painstaking sacrifice of cigarettes, I just sat there weeping. Thank you. And I'm going to do one more about him in the war. And And my dad, along with so many other soldiers, had this dream of courage, of fighting somehow a noble war and somehow saving the world. But it was a wounded dream. It's called Worst Moment. Although Dad rarely talked about the war that left him with a fused right knee and stiff leg. As a child, I found myself utterly unable to watch war movies. Battle scenes felt like trenches being dug and air raid sirens and bombs going off in my own body. My feet would walk away every time. It wasn't till later in his life that Dad shared his war memories with Jim and me. He said, the worst moment, the moment that's haunted me all these years, was at an outdoor cafe in Belgium. We soldiers, my buddies and me, were sitting at a table, just shooting the breeze, when a boy of maybe 10 approached us. I recognized him to be holding a German potato masher, a grenade easy to identify by its wooden handle. That same instant, a shot rang out, and the boy fell to the ground dead. Without hesitation, an officer at our table had shot him with a Colt .45 pistol. It was him or us. I knew that, at least in my head. But he was just a kid caught in a stupid war. I was a soldier. I saw terrible things. But that one stayed with me, haunts me. That was the worst, he said. War doesn't just pit enemy against enemy. It pits human being against human being. Perhaps war is possible only by forgetting that. And sometimes your body won't let you forget. Thank you. This one is The Courtship of Margaret, college freshman meets graduate student. This is, well, sometimes two dreams collide, and sometimes a marriage tries to recover from that. So this is about my mom and dad. She was tall and willowy, with eyes that couldn't decide whether to be green or blue. Her hooked nose came straight from her father, the preacher. She and her body seemed to barely know each other, eyeing each other with more tolerance than affection, or was it bewilderment? In a resigned, wistful way, she had always known that her name and the word beauty did not belong in the same sentence. In the world of the mind, she came alive. Iridescent and shimmery as a hummingbird, college, the world of words and ideas, not only suited her, it positively inspired her. He was muscular, with a square jaw and cockiness to back it up. His was a body well lived in, had climbed great heights, jumped into gymnastics, parachuted behind enemy lines, and deftly wielded a knife in Germany. His body wounded, he too had entered the world of the mind, first of desperation, then necessity, then zeal. His was a mind fully ignited, ablaze with theories and concepts. You could see it in the softening of his eyes as they followed her slender form, in the way he engaged her in spiritual debate. Matching wits, he found her a worthy opponent, intelligent, passionate, willing to fight for what she believed, and undeniably, unquestionably beautiful. As much as he loved her fire, he loved the underground spring of her emotions, bubbling up unexpectedly. He loved her innocence, her naivete that seemed to him like a well needing to be filled. From the shine in his eyes, the timbre of his voice, the protective encircling of his arms, it was obvious. He wanted her. He had loved before and lost. He was ready. And she, bursting with a new world of ideas, was much like moth to flame, came too close, wasn't ready. And thus a child was conceived. I'm going to skip to the end. Thank you. I'm going to skip to the end of the book. It spans from his childhood through my childhood and then through his later years. So this is called White Plumeria. And it's about, well, well, you'll see. After Dad died, though we held his hand and encouraged him to go, I felt hollow, empty, as if the furniture of my inner self had all been removed. Soon I found it had just been rearranged. After more disorienting days, I felt myself melt into wildflower honey. There arose an aroma like luscious honeysuckle. I walked in that sweetness, that grace for a time. My life felt like white plumeria, the blossom I placed behind my ear every day in Kauai. I lived in grace. Everything around me turned to grace. I was hoping to stay there forever. Thank you.
Magnificent.
Thank you. I have two left that I wanted to do about my mom. Do I have time? Is that okay, Mary?
Oh, yes, please go.
Okay, good.
We want
All right.
more.
Okay, thank you. I'm working on a book for my mom. My mom and I had a very difficult relationship, and I longed for her love. My dream was for us to somehow come together in love. In fact, in 5th grade with Mrs. Law, I wrote a story about a Revolutionary War era girl who got separated from her mother and spent 2 years in the wilderness trying to find her.
Mm.
And 137 handwritten pages later, the book ends. So this is about my mom. Full moon. The moon was full last night, round and bright, reflecting so much light that to my camera, the moon was just a river of brilliance. A scattering of charcoal, raw silk, silver-fleeced clouds, some edged in light, lit from behind, escorting the moon on her regal ride across the sky. Mm. The moon appears, disappears, hides, peeks out again, much like the love between my mom and me. It would sneak out from behind the clouds, obscured until one of us got brave enough to come out and show a luminous, naked heart. But when it wasn't reflected back right then, right there, bravery turned to broken glass. And in the blink of an eye, the brave one took cover behind the cloud. Yet, even in the deepest hiding, the moon's light cannot be quelled. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So sometimes what you long for doesn't really happen until afterwards in your dreams. This was an answer that came in my dreams after she had passed. And it's called Boots on the Ground. In the meadow between the mountains, people sat in a circle forming a human necklace, a mandala of beating hearts, connected to earth and sky and sun and waters and each other. We stood on a little rise overlooking them, my mother and I. And as I looked at her, Somehow I wasn't surprised that she was young, 40s maybe, half as old as when I last saw her before she died. In the wind, her hair was swept back, untamed, her eyes unwavering and clear. She seemed tall, regal, and beautiful as never before. "You put my boots on the ground," she said simply, pointing to a pair of tall black boots resting solidly between two people in that circle. Her voice was strong and straightforward, almost sounding like an accusation, but as I turned back towards her, a smile of boundless joy rose up from my feet, radiating out through my whole being. "I have so loved wearing your black boots," I said, looking directly into her face. A feeling of infinite time, infinite love passed between us. I woke up, marveling, thinking, boots on the ground, that's combat. Being grounded, standing your ground, taking a stand. These boots are made for walking. My husband said to me, "You're following in her footsteps." I thought of how quiet, reserved, introverted she was in life, yet she was the professor at college who stood up for student rights, wouldn't let books be banned. She was quiet by nature, but fierce with her truth. I thought of times when I have stood up to authority, when I saw power abused. Her energy pulses inside me. Following in her footsteps, hell yeah. Boots on the ground, hell yeah. Bring it on. Thank you.
Well, let's all unmute and just give a little noise
Wonderful,
here of
Cathy.
appreciation.
Woohoo! Yeah.
Well
Bravo!
done.
Bravo!
Yay.
Bravo! Bravo!
Bravo,
Uh,
Cathy.
Very nice, Cathy.
Thank you. Thank
Great
you.
job.
all.
You plucked a
And-
bunch of chords with my parents and stuff, and it was beautiful. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Woody.
Cathy, I loved the way you mined the gems, even though your relationship was difficult with your mother. That dream was beautiful. The inspiration, the boots, those were the gems.
Thank you. And I actually do wear those boots.
Yeah.
We know
Wow.
you do. Okay, well,
Now, I put it in the chat, but I wanted to say how you took something that was so personal and made it universal.
yes, yes.
So we could all
Yes.
identify with it.
Yes.
Thank you, Louise.
Beautiful.
Thank you all.
Much appreciation and love to you, Cathy. And thank you for being here with us tonight. Okay, we're going to go now into our time of hearing from anybody else who is here and wants to